Well, welcome, Miss Giselle Bueno. It is such an honor to hear what God is doing in your life. Let me just start off by saying I remember the day we met, and it was in our minds probably coincidence, but by divine orchestration. The Holy Spirit had a plan for your life, and little did I know how much God had intertwined me in your life on the day we met. We met in the month of November, around the 13th through the 15th, somewhere right around there. And we met at For Life. And this is what I remember. I remember my brother was supposed to preach, and then he had a family emergency and he had to head out of town. And he called me like within an hour and a half, 2 hours, and said, Rob, I need you to preach. This is what's going on. I said, I got you. And so that day, I'm ministering at For Life, and I remember you sitting in the crowd. I think you were wearing something with green, and I was. And all I know is I preached a message, and the Spirit of God began to move on your life. And you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah. So, yes, 2 days before that, I had journaled on November 13th because at that time in my life, I was depressed, I was having suicidal thoughts, and didn't know where they were coming from. Obviously, what I was tapped in or what I was working with, right? That lifestyle. And I went to church. I journaled on the 13th. I asked God for an ego death. So when you came in, you were preaching, you said those words. And when you said those words, I was like, oh my God, God's speaking to me. And this is a sign, because I lived my whole entire life for the last 7 years by signs, right? And when that happened, I was very like, okay, you wore green, I wore green, my dad wore green. I even mentioned to my mom, like, everyone's wearing green. This is a sign. It's the heart chakra, right? And after service, I got into an accident, a car accident that changed my entire life.
Yeah. So, and later as we're going to unfold, I had no idea that you were the Giselle across the street from my studio where we're currently located. I want to say a few years ago, maybe 2.5, we were the only people here on this block. And of course, it started to fill up after COVID and everything. And we got a shop right across the street called Moon City or Moon something.
Yeah.
And it was nothing more than a psychic shop.
Right.
And it's a new age crystals and everything.
All of it. Mm-hmm.
But I remember seeing one day that they had put up a sign and it said, Medium Giselle.
Giselle the Medium.
Giselle the Medium. And yeah. I'm here and I'm like, oh, heck no. I didn't say heck. I said no. Hell no. Hell right. No.
I was thinking hell right now.
Hell no. This is not going to happen while
right.
I'm here. I was here first. The counterfeit has come, and immediately I grabbed a jar of oil and I anointed my hands, and I walked and I anointed my street line. I anointed that building, and I began to speak to it and declare that out of this evil, something good would happen. I didn't know who you were. I wasn't speaking evil against you.
Right.
But I was definitely coming against the stronghold that's trying to set up on my block. And I'm like, not on my watch. As a prophetic voice, as one that believes in speaking the word of the Lord, speaking life and hope and encouragement to a people, I was like, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so literally, I find out all of this, that all things work together for the good. And that day, you come, you sit in the service. I don't remember if I prophesied to you or not.
No.
Nope. So I didn't. And all I know is I happened to be standing talking to your mom and dad when this car accident takes place. So I'm not sure who you called. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I was right there. And I remember your mom and dad, boom, just our conversation abruptly ended and they're heading out.
Yes.
And they just said, pray, because Giselle was in a bad accident.
Okay, so I'll little thing on the shop. It's funny that you say you were praying or you anointed the street, because since day one we moved in there, I knew I would only be there for a year. And the minute we got in, the window broke twice. The first time was on my side, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a sign again. I shouldn't be here. Didn't cross my mind I shouldn't be doing this, but I shouldn't be here in the shop, right? And there was a lot of stuff that I didn't agree with, you know, even though I was in mediumship, right? There was like Ouija board stuff in there. And yeah, so there was things that I was like, so that rubbed me the wrong way. But I was practically in all the witchcraft stuff. Ouija board, it doesn't
Not
matter.
practically. You were. You were.
Right. So it was like, I think I see now, I have the clarity, but back then you tried to make excuses for it, you know, or you tried to tweak it of your own, right? And, excuse me. So then church, I leave church and I'm like, oh my God, that's the word.
Before we even, how did you come to church that day?
Because I journaled and something told me you need to go to church. And I was church shopping because of the thoughts I was having. I hadn't been, when I was young, of course, I went through like suicidal thoughts or like postpartum depression, right? And this time it was different. I'm sure we'll get into it, but I was suicidal in September. October, I did an ayahuasca ceremony. November, I got into the accident. And I couldn't shake it off. And I had to speak on it because this time I was scared, you know, and I was telling my husband, like, something's wrong. I think I need to see a psychiatrist. I need help. Something is wrong. I'm thinking I picked up a spirit from someone's energy, right? Because I'm doing all these Reikis and readings and all this stuff.
So most people are not going to understand an ayahuasca service.
Correct.
Or what is Reiki. Can you just take a moment and begin to explain what is an ayahuasca service?
Okay.
I know because I have worked with people coming out of, you know, this form of witchcraft.
The new age.
This new
world,
age.
Right? So ayahuasca it's a root and a part of the bark of a tree. It's brewed and like kept overnight or for so many hours. And basically you drink it. So you have to prep yourself. There's different places you could go to do this. Well, I went to Mount Shasta to do my first one. I did it twice. So the first one, I prepped myself. I was actually living with my parents. I stood there for a year. And then I was in the process of moving into a new home here in Merced. And my husband's moving our stuff. And I'm like, I still got to do this. I was very like, if my mind's set, I'm doing it. Like, there ain't no stopping me. And if I die on that mountain, so be it.
You are like a pit bull on a pork chop. What you put your mind to something, it's going to happen.
Happening. Yeah. Like, that's it. There's no, and he's like, go do your thing. I admire my husband because he's always supported me. And so I go to Mount Shasta. And so basically you prep yourself. You have to fast. You can only drink like water, or she made this like milk stuff. I don't even know what it was, to be honest. I just know it was like a Mexican milk, you know, and we drink it. And then in the morning you wake up and you have to like hit your chakras to open them. And you have to do deep breathing. When you drink this, it is a hallucinogen. Is that how you say that?
Yep, hallucinogenic.
Yeah. And so you do the whole morning thing. You have to wear white.
Because it's a ceremony.
Yeah. You have to wear white. And after that, too, you can only eat like vegan food. So you can't eat like meat or anything like that, right? But you basically take it and you start hallucinating. And I mean like crazy hallucination.
So were you seeing crazy monsters? What were you seeing?
So I had a whole experience. When I did it the first time, I took it and I was praying.
And who were you praying to?
To God.
See, that's the crazy thing. So here you are, you're involved in this new age, cultic belief.
Right.
But in the back of your mind and in your spirit, you're still connected to God.
Still connected and still praying to him, which is funny because in the process, my prayer switched to praying to Archangel Michael. So that's too, like, I look back like, man, it had me, you know? So I started praying to Archangel Michael. I was praying to God in the beginning. Then when I started doing it, my prayer shifted to Archangel Michael. And because in New Age, angels, gods, goddess, like universe, anything.
All of it.
All of it.
It's inclusive.
Yeah. So I take it and I'm praying to him. And the first time, because I did it twice, and in one ceremony. So I did 2 ceremonies 2 times in each one.
So you did a total of 4.
4.
Oof.
Total of 4. And so I do it the first time, and the lady says, if you don't feel it, come back up and get more. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I could feel it, but I don't feel it. Like they're explaining.
I don't feel enough.
Yeah.
You're looking for more.
Correct. I was like, I want to like leave my body, and I want like the extreme, right? So dramatic. I'm always a dramatic. So then I take it, I don't feel it. She says, come back up. If you don't feel it, come back up for your second round. So she pours another, and it's like the little water cups. So it's pretty good size, right? So then I take it, and I was like, well, no, that's too much, because I'm already kind of feeling like you got to throw up. And she's like, no, take it all, because that means you have something inside you. And I was like, okay, then I'll release a demon here, right?
The truth is, you had Christ in you, and she's trying to flood out the Christ.
Correct. And the crazy thing is, I already was rubbed the wrong way when I seen her. She's called the medicine lady, right? She looked like a witch. She was dark skin, long white hair, only spoke Spanish. And I'm like, man, I shouldn't be here. I always felt that, but I pushed it aside. And then, so I end up taking the second one, and I was like, okay. She looked me straight in the eye and she said, good luck. I thought I was on Taken, okay? You know, everyone you hear that phone call, he's like, good luck. I'm like, oh my God, this is a movie, you know? The minute I took it, dropped to my knees, I threw it all up. I threw it up. There was people who walked around with shovels. They shoveled your throw up. So I'm on my knees, I'm purging, and he shovels it. And then I'm like, okay, I got to crawl back. We're all outside. You just find a spot, you put a sleeping bag, and you lay there and you hallucinate. You go through your journey. So I'm laying there. I have to crawl back to my blanket. I crawl back and I'm like, Lord, I don't know what I did. I'm sitting on my knees and I start seeing the Virgin Mary. I'm not Catholic, obviously, right? But I would pray to all of these saints and things. So I started seeing the Virgin Mary out of rocks, out of the dirt. And then I'm like, oh, it's working. I need to lay down. So it's me, the friend I did it with. She's a few feet away. And then there's this other lady. And I mention her because I'm not joking. It sounds like the movie The Exorcist. I was praying that time to God. When I heard her like growling and just cussing and all these things were coming out, I was like, I covered my head and I covered my face, my whole body. And I started going through my journey and I started seeing stuff. So one of the things was one of my brothers, he's a barber here in town. It told me that he was a servant. He always served people. every time, which I look back now, every time I did a ceremony, I asked if my husband was the one. And it makes sense because the enemy don't like unity, doesn't like marriage, relationship. So I
Makes
always,
it all about you.
yes. And so I would be like, is he the one? Because he's not spiritual, right? But I knew he loved me. I've been with him since I was 17 years old. And so I questioned if he was the one in the, I don't know what you would call it, like the medicine, I guess, or that spirit said, yeah, he's the one. And it showed me when I was young. It showed me my son. You know what's crazy? Now that I'm telling you this, it even showed me Mary in the crowd and Jesus. And then it told me that I had cross and that I had to, my son is cross, that I had cross, and it started linking into that. Showed me in my mom's womb. And it brought up, I seen a vision of her and my biological dad arguing. And then it took me to this water, and I was a mermaid. And it brought me to the surface.
You know what mermaids are symbolic of? Water
Spirits. I learned that from you. So, and I was like, oh my God, this is cool. I'm a mermaid, right?
Wow.
But not in that time. Obviously, I had to come out of it. So then it brought me to the mermaid. And then it said to look up. I look up, and I'm like this. And I could see my figure and just lights beaming out. So I'm like, oh, my chakras are getting cleared. My heart, my throat. Excuse me. I think it was my sacral, like all my chakras were getting in alignment, basically. And
To make you more spiritual.
to make me more spiritual.
And your hope was to find peace, and you never found it.
Never found it till today.
Wow.
So then, thank you, Jesus. And
Absolutely.
So then, so that happens. All these colors are coming out of me, and it puts me on this cliff. And I was on the cliff, and I was crying, and I could see the back of me, and wings came out of me, and it said, jump. And then I stood there, no hesitation. I jumped, and I woke up. Another thing in that ceremony, my dog had passed away, and I heard my dog. And then I prayed. It was like, God, protect me, because I kept hearing that lady. And my grandma had already passed away too. And my grandma was there from what I felt, right? Like, oh, she's here. She's protecting me. And then the message from her was, you're going to help people cross over, right? So then I jump off the cliff. I wake up. The minute I wake up, I am in like full on tears. This tremendous amount of gratitude, right? I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I thank you for waking up. Thank you for like the dirt. Like I'm here. I'm back alive. Oh, another crazy part. This was the image. I came out of my body and seen myself dead. Flies were crawling on me. And I was like, oh my God, nobody came to see me. Nobody cared I died here when I'm the one that volunteered to do this. But I laid there dying. And that's when I became onto the mountain and then told me to jump.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you got fully indoctrinated. The reason you're wearing white is because it's a marriage. And so what is trying to come out of you when she said drink it again is nothing more than her saying you got to divorce Christ.
Yeah.
You know, though you weren't necessarily serving him, you believed in him. You called on his name as a child and he walked with you.
Right.
And so he never leaves you nor forsakes you.
Right.
Though you may not be looking to him, he's holding his ground in you.
Right.
Greater is he that is in you than he that's in the world. And though you're experiencing all this stuff of the world, he's still resident in you. I'm sure your family's still praying for you.
Absolutely.
And so God is this irremovable force, though you're looking high and low for him in a different form.
Right.
Wow. And so this ayahuasca is literally just a covenant with the adversary.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because after that ceremony, I stopped believing Jesus. I stopped believing that Jesus was with me. I stopped believing like he didn't hear me. Other gods and goddesses were hearing me. The angels responded faster than he did.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about ayahuasca. Just take a moment and share about what is the Reiki.
Okay, so Reiki it's basically aligning chakras. And chakras in New Age is energy points in your body. You have 7. I'm going to try to remember as much as I can because when I got in that accident, God gave me a new mind and heart.
Yeah.
So I know that he's going to obviously speak through me, but he is speaking through me. There's 7 chakras, and it's like your crown, your third eye, your throat, your heart, your solar plexus, your sacral, your root. So when you do Reiki, it's to align these energy points, and each one connects to, like the heart, it connects to the arms, your hands. Your organ is the heart. Each one will connect to the physical part of the body. Organs to your body.
Yeah.
Right? So I always identified, like, if colors, like in church, I was like, oh my God, my heart's healing today. Right? So go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're always looking for healing, always searching for it.
Right.
You're reading signs of it, but never really having it manifest as a truth in your life.
No, it was a temporary high. It was a Band-Aid. Because now that I'm in Jesus and I've given my life to him, I can absolutely see the difference. I have this peace that's unexplainable since I got into that car accident. Now, mind you, I went through a lot of emotions and I was mad at him, but this peace, I've never had it. I came off, the best way to explain it, I got off the hamster wheel.
Yeah, of your self-improvement.
Correct.
Because in the New Age, it's all about you bettering yourself, but you never becoming perfected.
Correct.
Christ in you is perfection.
Yeah.
And when you come to the knowledge that he's in me and he's perfecting me, he's bringing me out and bringing me into a greater glory than I can understand.
Yes.
And so, let's go back now just to the accident.
Okay.
So when you got hit, you got T-boned, I believe, right? All your airbags explode.
All of them.
Your body gets yanked forward and backwards, and you hit your head, I believe, on the steering wheel, right?
So I had a Lexus, and all the airbags go out. I didn't even know I had airbags in certain places. Like, it was crazy to me. So all the airbags go off. The back seats, my whole car was totaled. The guy ran a stop sign. I come out of church. So I want to tell you, like, from the beginning that day. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So that whole day, there was a lot of stuff that was happening. For instance, I had to make dinner, right? I had to make dinner. I usually make dinner, but I was adamant to go to the grocery store, make dinner before I went to church. I also had to buy eucalyptus for these 2 friends that I had at the time with me. And I gave them the bundles. I bought me one and these 2 ladies. I gave the eucalyptus to both of them. And I carried this crystal, and it was shaped as a disc. Funny thing is, that was the first crystal I ever bought. And so then I carried that, and I was like, I said to protect me. Literally, when I put it on, because in New Age, you wear crystals in your bra, you put them in your pockets, right? And even though the faith is not in them, it really is. You're really putting faith into that, or some kind of belief, right? And so I put it in, and I was like, I need you to protect me today. So that happens, the eucalyptus, I cooked dinner. I just got glasses. So I'm wearing my new glasses, right? I just got my eyes checked. And I go to church, come out of church. I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. He spoke to me, and maybe I'm coming back now, right? And I get in the car, and there's the second parking lot at the church. So not the first one, but the second one. And I hear a loud voice, and it says, stop, and to look. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, I said it out loud. I talk a lot to myself. And I said, oh, if I didn't stop, I would get hit. Literally, I go up to the first, it's not a stop sign on my end, it was on his, and he hits me. Whole car spun out, all the airbags go off. When the airbags went off, there was so much smoke and the fuzzy stuff. I've never been in a big car accident like this. And
me neither.
Yeah.
By the grace of God, thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
Right. So all this is going off.
And I made a phone call to my husband that I was in an accident, but I don't remember that. And I hit my head somewhere, but I don't remember because I had a concussion. Before I passed out, I see a huge figure. Huge. It was white, glowy in my passenger seat. And I was like, okay, I'm going to die. Oh, I was trying to open my door, and I panicked. And I believe that's when I passed out because I didn't know luxury cars have airbags on the door, like curtain airbags come down. And I panicked, and I was like, okay, God, I surrender. Like it was so quick that that's what I said. I'm okay to die. And I went to church. That was my thought, to be honest. I was okay to die. And I think because of what I was experiencing already, suicidal, depression, all of these worry, I couldn't shake it off this time. So when that happens, my door opens and I'm hanging out. I don't know how my door opened, but I'm hanging out of the car, half of my body. And a guy from the dispensary across the street says, ma'am, you've been in an accident. I seen the whole thing. Don't move. Are you okay? And he's talking to me. I could hear him, but I'm not there. Yeah. And so then Rebecca, another lady from church, passes by, and she says that she thinks it was me. So she comes back. I'm still hanging out the car. Now I think I'm on the street, and I grab my phone, and she comes, and I told her, call my mom. And so then she calls my mom. She says, I have to move my car. She's parked too in the middle of the street. In that short time, she goes to move her car. Two people got me. All I remember was one was dark brown and one wore red. That's all I could remember. But they got me by my shoulders. They even called me by name. And they said Giselle. And I was like, wait, what? But you're not there. And they moved me to the side off the road. And they were gone. They were completely gone. So then my mom and dad's there. I'm crying. I'm like, what the hell is going on, And it's like, oh my God, my poor car. And the guy was on his phone. So don't text and drive. And then I went to the hospital. But I was so mad that day. When I got into that accident, I didn't want my crystal on me. I wanted to throw it away right there. It was something inside me. I was mad at that, at the crystals. I was mad at God, and I was mad at the world.
Well, you're thinking, I have like double protection. I'm calling on the name of the Lord. I'm calling on the gods of these crystals.
Right.
I'm trusting every spirit realm possible, and no one helped me. No one protected me.
Exactly. So then I get to the hospital. I'm like, I've helped your people. I start having this conversation with God, and I just start unraveling thoughts, emotions. Like, how could this happen? Why did this happen? Now I don't question because I'm so thankful it happened. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here today. Like, Jesus in my life and him saving me. So I thank him so much. And he reminds me almost every day of why that needed to happen. At least that's how I see it, you know?
So now let's kind of rewind, because
Okay.
we're here at the mature Giselle,
Right.
you know, the one who's lived life and gone through many experiences. But going back, you were a PK.
I was a PK, and that is stands for pastor's kid, for those who don't know. So my parents got saved at a really, I think it was like 1990s. I don't know exact year, maybe 1999. And, we were raised in church. So my mom and dad gave a lot of their time to the church and to the people there. And at that time, it's like, whatever, right? It's until you start getting older, you become a teenager, and then you start being rebellious, and you start, and then you're like, blame your parents for them neglecting you or
Feeling neglected, at least.
feeling neglected, right? And a lot of their time went, and they had 5 kids, right? And it's not to blame my parents because they did the best to their ability of raising us kids and then running a church and being leaders and then running the church. And then I got pregnant at a young age. I got pregnant at 14 years old. So that happening, and then I get pregnant. We get, launched out to another city, which was Los Baños. And there's still this thing inside me. I feel like I didn't, this trying to find out who I am or this identity, because I even went through like a lesbian stage, and trying to find out like who I was and searching for love.
Exploring.
Yeah. And I meet my lovely husband at 17 years old. So I left. He was 18. I was 17. I met him. I leave home. I have a child. And
So you said you got pregnant at 14.
yeah.
So kind of, it doesn't sound like it's the same relationship as at 17.
What do you mean?
So was it a different relationship?
Oh, no, totally different. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened at 14? Because if you think about 14, you're still a girl.
I was a baby.
A baby.
Yeah.
But to be entering into that type of relationship, there's probably a lot going on in your life that's unaddressed.
Right.
And I think there's many people that go through difficult times and they just categorize that, well, this is normal.
Right.
And so looking back now at 14, the life experience that you're having, you're doing something that's for at least someone who should be more mature and ready. You're probably not ready for all of this that's happening.
No.
So there's some type of deception that has come. Can you talk into that?
Yeah. And like, correct me if I'm wrong or if I go off. Okay. Like,
Yeah, no.
So when I was 14, there's a part I don't want to speak on because I feel like it's very private.
Sure.
But I at that time too, like when I found out I was pregnant, I felt alone. I felt depressed. And I feel like that was the first time that I was like actually having suicidal thoughts. And I never experienced that. And like I said, my parents were heavily into like church, and I just didn't feel like I personally didn't go to my mom about things. I chose that, and I didn't open up and so then I have my child, and that was really hard because, you're going in and out of court and having to deal with all of that. And so, yeah.
So I would just say this, because most people don't understand this. There's 2 types of sin that takes place in a person's life.
Right.
The sin by choice committed by you. if you decided to just reach across and smack me in the face
Right.
because, my face irritated you, we know that would be sin committed by you, right?
Right.
And that you just like, yeah, you make me mad, pop.
Right.
But there's another sin, and it's called sin committed to you, that begins to shape your belief system because of an experience.
Yes.
And it sounds like you had an experience that shaped your belief,
Yes.
that caused an expectation or a failed expectation that became your behavior.
Yeah, because never did I think I was going to have kids. I had this whole vision, like I was going to be this girl in college and interior designer. And even in high school, I wanted to be a cheerleader. Like I had all these goals. I'm very goal-oriented. And so I had all these goals. And then you find out you're pregnant, you're 14 years old, and just
So you're a freshman in high school, most likely.
I was a freshman in high school. And then you can't be pregnant. At that time, you couldn't be pregnant and go to a regular high school. So they pulled me out and put me to a continuation school. And I think too, this is where my anger came from with church people is because I was talked about. I was talked about, I'm pregnant, I'm 14 years old, my parents are leaders in the church. I'm not going to graduate. I'm going to be a dropout now. Look how young she is. Just certain remarks.
Yeah, they're making you throw away your whole life.
Right.
Or they're throwing it away for you.
Right.
So church hurt settles in.
Correct. And so then I go to this continuation school. And now that people had said these things, that's another thing about me. I'm like, oh, you want to talk about me? I'm going to prove you wrong now. That's
the prophetic. You tell a prophetic person what they can't do, they go, just watch me now.
Watch me do it.
You just put fuel in this fire, and that's enough to make me run until I do it.
That part. So then I go to school. I had to get the bus at like 5 a.m. with my son. We'd get on the bus with other moms, and he's a newborn. By now he's born. By then he's born now. And I get on the bus, and we're going to school together. On my breaks, my lunches, I had to go change his diapers, do feedings, and you do this all at that school.
How old are you now? You're
15.
15.
15. And so then my parents now get launched to Los Baños, and then I still go to another continuation school. But I end up graduating early, a month early, with my class. So I graduated, and that was a goal because I was talked about. So that was a goal. I want my diploma. I'm not going for a GED. I was determined. So even though I experienced, this, and I'm so grateful because I wouldn't have my son today. He's like the best kid, and I'm not saying that because he's my kid, because I would say, but he is like the best child anyone can have. So I do believe, like, even through the trauma or the dark, God give.
His hand's been on you.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
So now you're 17, 18, you're graduating.
Yeah.
When did this spiritual journey begin to change in your life?
Okay, so 17 I graduated, but then I leave home. I waited a day before I was 18 because I'm like, my parents ain't gonna have this. I can't date no man. They're heavily into church. And so I'm like, I'm leaving. I told him I'm dating this guy and I'm leaving. So I left home for my husband. And then things go on, and
so I've met your husband. We have this ongoing joke, he and I now. The first time he came to church, I said, if you enjoyed the sermon, my name is Prophet Rob. If you didn't like it, I'm Pastor Rudy.
Yeah. And now all of you guys do it to him.
And so, so Joe is, go back, you guys are running away together basically, right?
Yeah.
What is his mindset of like your mom and your dad?
He just was like, well, they're in church. It doesn't fly. And he doesn't know because he has no religion. He doesn't come from no religion. He knows there's a God, but he doesn't pray to God. He's just.
So he's just like, cool. If they love me, perfect. If they hate me, I'm good.
Yeah.
So he has, there's probably no real concept of thought.
No, Joe's very laid back. He just lets everything until he has to really speak up. But yeah.
So, okay. So you guys are now moving forward. You're telling your mom and your dad the day before your 18th birthday.
Yeah.
So you're not really telling them, you're letting them know.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. And then
you are crazy. Just,
I am crazy, and I love that part about me. I think God just gave me a little extra sparkle. And I'm weird. I am weird. I know that. And being in Jesus, I'm like, I really am weird. Pastor tells me I'm a weirdo, and I'm like, a weirdo knows a weirdo, so you're weird too.
There you go. And so you guys start this journey.
So we move out. We're living on our own. We go through a lot of stuff. I move in with my grandma. She takes me in, me and my son. Joseph's living in Los Baños, but he still has a girlfriend of 2 years, and yeah. And so
there's a lot in that little web.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff happening in between. So finally, we really make the commitment. I go back, me and my son, we go to Los Baños. I live with my grandma for a year. We move in with his father. I started working at Payless Shoe Source. Okay, became a manager, assistant manager, sorry. And then the guy liked me so much. A guy from Radio Shack, that manager liked me so much. He was like, come sell for me. You can make good money. I'm like, how much money we talking? So I'm like, okay, I'll go. You tell me how much and I'll go. And, so I get hired on to Radio Shack. I worked at Radio Shack for 10 years. I worked my way up, became assistant manager, went into being management. I ran Atwater store, and then they brought me back to Los Baños. And I really thought, this is my career. This is what I'm doing. It's good. I'm running the show. I work with my community. I love people. I love relationship. I love people. And I felt like this was it. Well, Radio Shack files bankruptcy. They come in overnight, literally, close my shop, close the store down. And I took a year off, and I was like, what am I going to do? I'm searching at this time. 1, for anything. 2, for a job. And then I try out the whole school thing, and I'm like, no, ain't my deal. I need money. And so I get hired at Check and Go. This is where it really starts.
For those of you that don't know Check and Go, Check and Go is a hard money place, and they cash checks, loans.
Pay loans, payday loans. And so I get hired on Check and Go. And right away, I'm trying to do the most. How do I get management? How do I get assistant manager, right? Trying to go for the top dollar. And so I get hired on, and I'm working with the manager, and she would get facials. And she's like, have you ever got a facial? And I was like, no, what's a facial? And she's like, oh, it's,
Oh, girl, you're going to go get pampered. They take good care of you.
Yeah. Gonna get your pores cleaned out, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff, right?
She's selling you.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to go get one. I tell my husband, and I'm like, I'm going to get a facial. I don't know, they clean your face and blah, blah, blah. So I go and get one. I walk in, I lay down, I do the facial. Well, the girl who's doing my facial is like, oh, you got to ground your energy. You're not grounded. I remember clear as day as if it was yesterday. And I'm like, what the hell does grounding mean? And she's like, I smell this smell, and it's called Palo Santo. And it's this smoke. And I'm like, oh, it does smell good. And then she's like, do you feel that? You're going to ground your energy. And I'm like, energy? Oh, my ears start perking. And then she's like, yeah, you got to ground. You have a gift. And she's like, you need to sit with my cousin.
So she's feeling a spiritual gift, but she's perverted in the sense she's into New Age, she's into the cultic belief system, but she senses this prophetic destiny in your life.
Yeah.
And she's just waking you up with keywords.
Correct. And I was grasping them, boy. I was like, yes, 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 yes. Right? And I was like, what's your cousin do? And she says she's a psychic. Oh, no, we don't do that. I'm
a Christian, right?
I don't believe in that. My parents would kill me, was a thought. And then I'm like, no, we don't believe in that. Like, I'm a Christian. I come from this. And she's like, no, you just got to sit with her. Like, trust me. And I'm like, okay, go get another facial. Tells me again, same thing. You're really gifted. You really have a gift. So now, second facial in, now I'm curious. And I've always been a curious person. Like you say, don't push that. I'm pushing it because you didn't say why not to push it, right? So I got a very curious mind, and I'm still like that till this day.
But she's sowing seed.
Correct.
She's sowing it into your life, and she's working on you.
Yeah, literally.
And so her hands are obviously defiled because she believes in it. Right. And so she's just working or grooming you to be seduced by this power, this presence.
Oh, I was seduced, all right. So then I go home and I tell my husband, I said...
You went from a hard no to what?
To a yes. A whole yes.
You started entertaining it, and then now you're like...
Because my mind's now like, should I do it? It's not something I should do because it's not what we believe in, right? What I was brought up in. But there's something in me that I want. I'm searching for something. I don't know what it is. I think I want love, and I don't want Joe's love. I want more than that, right? Like
You want identity. You want purpose.
Identity for sure, because I've always felt like now in Jesus, he's showing me who I am. But now that I look back, I searched for identity for so long. And that journey was, like I said, got off the hamster wheel, right? So then I tell my husband, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go and see what this cousin is about, this psychic person. What's the worst that can happen?
And Joe, because he's
nonchalant.
Nonchalant.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd just go with the flow, Joe.
He does.
And he just supports you if it's radical, risky, or even dangerous.
He does.
He just says, okay, if this is what you want to do, I'm backing you. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
And so I know, because you're like, I got to go drink this ayahuasca drink. And I'm like, I could die. And he's like, go.
Yeah. Okay.
He probably wouldn't do it now.
Call me when you're done. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So do you call and make an appointment? Does the facial lady, does she set it up? How?
She sets it up. Facial lady sets it up. And she says, be here at this time. And I said, okay, where do I meet? She said, you'll meet here in my shop. I said, okay. So I set the appointment. I was nervous as heck. I remember I was so nervous. Crazy thing is, though, when I went in, she immediately was like, you're gifted. You have a gift all over you. She started telling me things. How could she know these things? How could she know that I went through this and this? And here I am today searching for this.
You know how she knows?
Well, obviously, now I know.
It's called familiar spirits.
Yeah.
And so what she did is she tapped into
those realms.
Into the realm of your past pain.
Right.
But she wasn't really prophesying to your future and your destiny.
Right.
She was just showing you highlights of what was, but she didn't have any highlights of what is to be.
Right. And that's exactly what it was. It was my past. It was my past and where I was at in that day. And so I have the reading, and that's what they're called, right? They're readings.
What did she do the first reading? Do you remember?
Yeah, we just sat just like this. And she picked up. And she said that you went through this. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I want more, right?
Tell me more about my pain.
That part. And when you're desperate, looking for your identity, you're not happy, you just want some kind of peace, you do pull. You will pull. I did, And I wasn't happy at that time in my life. I was searching for more. I was looking for my identity. My relationship was okay. I mean, we didn't have a bad relationship, but I knew there was I wanted more.
Yeah, the longing that you had wasn't for physical, it's spiritual need. There was a spiritual void inside of you.
Yes.
And because the church rejected you, talked bad of you,
right.
Caused wounds, you're probably a little mad. Mom and dad are busy with the church,
right.
and they're stealing my time with my family. So
I don't have my mom's attention, my dad's attention.
And so now you're just like, this woman is paying attention to me.
Yeah.
And she's telling me all the things of my ego and soul that's going to heal me.
Right.
But she wasn't offering healing. She was just telling you experience.
And you feel in those moments that it is healing. You feel it's healing.
In the form of just validation.
Correct. Yeah.
Because there's no healing.
No.
Because you don't leave there and your anxiety's gone. You don't leave there.
For a few days.
And then
it comes back. For a week. Then it comes back.
And then it draws you in. I have to go back.
I have to go back. I need another reading. I need another session. So that all ends. And she's like, will you come in and do a session with me, a reading? And I was like, what do I have to do?
How long into the journey is that?
It was that same day. It was that same session.
So the first session, she recognizes you have a gifting.
The minute I walk in.
And now she's like, okay, let me read you. Hey, come and sit by my side and let me mentor you.
Yeah.
Let me just grab hold of this gift and exploit it.
Yes.
For my own good.
Yeah.
And being the risk taker you are, how long did it take you to say yes?
On the spot. I'm risky. I don't care. I'm just going to do it. And if I'm going to do it. I did it. And
so how long?
Okay. So then I have the session. I sit in that Friday. It was
what day's your session?
Like a Saturday.
And so within a week's time, 5 days, 6 days later, you're sitting in another session in the same shop.
Reading 2 little Mexican women. And she tells the ladies, I was like, what do I have to do? And so we're in my session still. And she said, I tell her, what do I have to do? And she's like, just say what you feel. So now I understand words are seeing the difference.
She's suggesting.
Yeah. And I said, oh, I could do that. I'm good at that. Say less. So here comes Friday. I'm working at Check and Go. I'm now a manager. And I tell my employee at that time, I tell him, hey, switch me shifts. I'm going to go do this. And I'll cover the night shift, the closing shift. Just do the morning shift because it's in the morning with these 2 little Mexican ladies. And he's like, okay. So I show up to the shop, the facial shop.
The secret psychic shop.
Yeah. And I go in and I do a reading. That was my first one. And
she doesn't even really mentor or teach you.
No.
She just says, do as I do.
This is what she said. Whatever you feel, just say it. I said, okay.
So did they bring you into a meditation? Did they bring you in? Did they light candles? What was the atmosphere like? Because just to walk in cold turkey and do a reading.
Dim. The lights were dim. You like Palo Santo or sage, right?
So they lit that up.
Clear your air.
Clear the atmosphere, yeah.
That was really it. The 2 little ladies come in and they sit there and you just read, right? And I sensed stuff, I smelt stuff, I felt stuff, I seen stuff. And she was like, oh my God, you did so amazing. You're a natural. And I was like, oh yeah, boosting my ego, right?
She's
I was
feeding
like,
your soul.
Yep.
And because you've lived through disappointment,
Yep.
the moment someone starts feeding you approval and saying you're gifted,
Yep.
all of a sudden you're hook, line, and sinker. You're like, oh, you probably said, this is my gift.
It is. That's exactly what I
This
said.
is my call. This is
What I'm destined to do. So you know what I did? I quit my job.
Check and go was gone.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I go and I go back to my husband and I'm like, Joe, this is it. This is my gift. And I was already reading like self-love books. Okay. So I was reading Loveology.
Feeding your ego.
I was reading, and it started off because that book has scripture and talks like a pastor's point of view. So it was almost like God was still obviously there, right? But I got ahead of God. I went fast.
well, I wouldn't say you got ahead. I'd say you turned left.
Yeah.
You know, in the sense of,
I did.
so here's what people don't understand. The enemy is a destiny swapper. And think about this.
Yeah.
This means you have a prophetic call, a prophetic nature to be used by God to speak the word of the Lord into the lives of people in the form of edification, exhortation, and comfort,
Right.
to reveal hope and destiny, and to help people who are in need. You know, this prophetic gift. But what does the enemy do? He comes and he swaps it and takes that in which God wants to use for the good, and he uses it for evil, but he masks it in the form that you're helping and making everybody better.
Better. Because that's what happened.
You're
to
doing
me.
it. You're doing it.
Yes, I'm doing it.
Not God doing it.
Nope.
You're doing
I'm
it.
doing it.
And so you're saying you're going to jump, you quit your job. So from how many weeks are we talking here?
Okay, so I have that session with the two Mexican ladies. I then tell my husband, okay, now I got to tell my parents. My parents lived in Merced.
They're just not Christians. They're active members of church.
Yeah.
And they're still leaders.
Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, Joe, take me to my mom and dad's. Let's go visit them because I'm going to tell them what I'm going to do. And my husband was going through like some stuff too at that time. So like his own depression and work stuff, right? And him too. So either way, we were moving to Merced or something was happening for us to come to Merced because the job then was his job was trying to put him out here. Or I think he was already working out here. And so I go to my mom and dad's and I'm like, well, I got to talk to you guys.
I got good news. I got good news.
And we were sitting in the backyard and I tell my mom and dad and my mom's like, nope, I don't believe that. Like I'm like, oh, she's so judgmental and blah, 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 right? I don't even want to hear my mom. But my dad was like, I believe you, baby, because there's prophets in the Bible. And that he said that, right? And I was like, perfect. That's all I had to hear.
Was there's prophets in the Bible.
Yeah, and it was okay because there's prophets in the Bible.
So you're validating, twisting what he said for your benefit.
Yes. And so I made cards and he was like, my dad helped me and spiritual life coach was what I first came out with. And I never really wanted a title. So then that happens. I'm still at Check and Go and I'm passing these cards out while I'm doing payday loans.
Just adding it to
Stapling it to their receipts.
self-promoting.
I'm a hustler at heart. And so I was like, here, if you ever want to speak to a loved one who's passed over to on the other side, like call me, And I was stapling it to their contracts. And so eventually that's when I put in my 2-week notice.
Because you're probably obviously starting to get calls.
Yep. I started getting calls.
So you're working at Check and Go. From when it starts to now you're stapling cards, how many weeks do you think this is?
Oh, I would say probably like A month.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
You went from going to having a facial 2 times, probably over a month, and then all of a sudden.
Well, I stood with Check and Go for a year.
Okay.
But a month from that, the facial thing took off. Yeah.
So you're just fully activated in your gifting.
Yeah. So
as a seer.
Yeah.
As a just a feeler.
Yeah.
So when did and how did it all begin to progress? Because you were no longer just cold card reading. You're not cold card, just cold reading, meaning when they would sit there, you just feel and sense.
So like I said, I'm very curious, very determined, self-motivated. I started looking into I went to Barnes and Noble and I started teaching myself. I went to the spiritual/religion section and I started reading self-love books, more self-love, self-help books. It's funny, I would read my Bible, but then obviously that just went shoop, right out the window. Lived with my mom and dad for a year. When I moved into their house, I was doing readings. And they would tell me, go get a job, look for a job. Nope.
I got a job.
This is my job. I just need to hold on. And I've always had this entrepreneur spirit too.
Sure.
And so I started off at $60. $60. At first, I was like, just give me anything. Give me anything because it's a form of service. And I'll just trade you. So one time a lady gave me plants. I got books, and then my husband's like, girl, we need to make a living. Yeah. So I'm like, I know. So then it was $60. So I even have, I think, this video of me doing Reiki on my parents' couch. They would go to work. They knew, but I don't think they realized what I was in or the extent of where it was even going, right? And it was my form of having an income. And so I did it on the couch in the front room. I would have sessions, readings, and...
How long is a typical reading?
An hour. An hour. So I went from 60 to 120 to 200 to 250. And Reikis were 250, readings were 200. And
how many sessions would you do in a day?
Oh, when I was really busy, it was probably minimum from 5 to 9, 10 sessions a day.
So it's all 10 hours of work.
Yeah. But people didn't know, when we moved into our house, my kids and my husband would always see me sick. There was a part of my life that was very private.
So there's an exchange.
Correct.
So to be fueled with this energy and power to do these readings from the New Age dimension, from this cultic realm, the exchange was you can do this and be life to them, a form of life to them.
Right.
But the exchange is your body.
Right. And it wasn't even just, it was that, but I also realized too, I'm going to be really vulnerable. I also got into doing coke. I never did that. And I was like, I love it. But it was the devil. I knew this too, right? What are you doing? You're over here doing this, trying to help people, and then you're tempering into this.
And was it because you needed a quick fix?
No, it was because I wanted to party. I wanted to party. And then come Monday, I'm like, okay, I got to meditate, ground, do all these practices to clear my energy.
From polluting yourself.
Correct. So that was a season I did that, but it was very short. And then I did a lot of marijuana, smoked a lot.
Keep the peace.
Yeah. Keep me out of my head or just away from let me be, right? Felt it was a sense of peace. At least it was very quiet at that time.
Masking and covering.
Right. So, and then drinking. I drank very heavily in the beginning. And I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'll have a, no, I drank like liters. And I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, like those were some of the best times, like, right? But I think it was only because now I look back and I'm like, man, I was masking something. I was still suppressing something.
Going all the way back to 12, 13, 14, when trauma came into your life.
Right. Thinking I did this too because, oh, I'm picking up so-and-so's energy. I'm picking up, they just released, so I have that attached to me. So it was things like that that made me think, you go to those outlets. And then a little fast forward, but then I really got heavily into it. Like I was like, enough's enough. You're going to commit now.
So you went from the place of just doing casual readings, trading for books and plants, to, okay, I need a little income, $60. And then 60 was like, I'm worth more. So it grew to 100, then 200, and then 250.
And I would pray thinking that God's telling me, because I would announce that to people. Like, oh, I would go live all the time, right? I started using social media as a platform, and I would go live and I would tell them, like, I prayed, and I did, but I don't think that was God responding. Now that I know, Obviously this was not God responding. It was
the enemy
responding to me.
And so when you would go live on, say, Facebook,
Instagram,
how many people would jump on?
A lot. Probably like, I don't know, 100. It would fluctuate. It would go up and down.
And were you giving free readings online? What were you doing?
First, it started off like inspiration, motivational talk. I think that I have a spirit or an energy that people gravitate to. So it started off as that. And then it started off, I was always afraid to do readings online. But then I was like, screw it. I'm just going to do it. Risky. And I jump in and I start doing it.
And so now people, you're drawing a cult following, people that probably jump on every single time.
Every Thursday at 7 p.m., I was consistent. I started looking into like how to run your own business. And, I went down all of that, how to run my business, how to certain things like bring people, what are the niches or what you do for the social media platform. And I started making bracelets. So I'm very creative too. God has given me the gift of creativity. And I started making bracelets. And let me tell you, Rob, oh my God. I look back and man, I made probably in one night, the most I've ever made was like $1,700, $1,800 off of crystal bracelets. And I look back and when I went through everything, I'm like, man, Lord, forgive me because I created this cult or the
following.
Yeah, the following. They were desperate as much as I was in the beginning. And, but yeah, money was coming in. But even though money was coming in, I was still lacking and not happy. I did not have what I had.
So money didn't fill your void.
Nope.
So you're from the day that you went in and did your first reading without no mentorship, discipleship, no training, just gifting, to stapling your life coach card saying if you want to communicate with someone from the other side. And then all of a sudden calls start coming in to the place where you went from $60 to $250. So this is now a couple of years into the journey, I'm sure.
Yes. So when I moved out of my mom and dad's house, it was almost like I was in this covering. When I came out, that was it.
Yeah. So when you're in your mom and dad's house, because they prayed to the Lord God, they prayed to the heavenlies.
Right.
Though you're walking in a way which we would call disobedient, there is still a hedge about you because you're in the house of a godly family that's still covering, protecting, and believing. Right. They probably understand what you're doing, but One of the greatest things I've come to learn is this. We may not, as a father, we don't necessarily agree with the choices our children make, but it doesn't change our love.
Yes.
And so your mom, your dad, they love you. Your dad actually helps you come up with, this stuff. He probably wasn't for it, but he knows you. If I tell her no, she's going to do it anyways. So if I say yes, she may do it, but I'm going to have to pray for the heart to change.
Right.
And so you're going from this place where you're just reading, but when did the expansion into other things begin to really take place?
When I moved into my home. So the 1 year with my mom and dad, then I left. And
you left their covering, their protection.
Yeah.
And now you're free game.
Free game. Go into my house. And I get into yoga. I get into like juicing. Of course, juicing is good. That's taking care of your health, right? But I get into juicing, my vitamins. I start doing sound baths in my house. I start doing...
For yourself or for others?
Others.
Okay.
I start having like ceremonies in my own home now.
Question.
Yeah.
Now that you're having ceremonies in your own homes, you're inviting these principalities, these powers, this unclean in the midst of clean in your mind. Right. Was your husband or your son, your children, were they experiencing anything? Yeah,
like my youngest, he would have bad dreams. And then I'm like, I got to sage your room. Right? Me and my husband, there was actually one time, I was in my mom's house at that time, but we almost came to divorce. That was the first time ever. And I've been with that man for 23 years. And that was the first time ever. But then coming into this house, my husband was like, perfect, money's coming in. That's fine with me. Do your thing. But my oldest was like, nope, I support you. I love you, but I believe in God. So I'm like, but that's when I got like really, really, when in my home, I went into like astrology, reading my birth chart to living according to the
full moon, the linear moons.
Retrogrades and Mercury's and Venus and all this crap. And getting into all of that, right? Because it was just so much. It was so much. I spent so much money on it. Like, I look back and I'm like, oh my God.
So you're doing yoga, astrology, you're filling and you're sensing gifts.
Yep.
Crystals,
Reiki.
Sound baths.
Mushroom ceremonies. What else? Then cards actually started coming in.
Tarot cards.
Angel cards. Okay, because that's what they are there. Tarot cards are separate from angel cards, which you think it's okay, but it's all the same mess,
It's all operating on familiar spirits.
Correct.
My goodness. And so here's a question. You're treating people in your home.
Yeah.
You're doing mushroom ceremonies and everything.
Yes.
So that's kind of like the ayahuasca a little bit.
Yeah.
Different form, but
still you start to see like, so before I even did it, I was like, I'll be the guinea pig. I'll test it on myself. So I would do mushroom ceremonies I would do the shrooms on myself.
So when you took the shrooms, of course it's a hallucinogenic, right?
Right.
So in the midst of your hallucinations, what are you seeing?
Oh man. At first I was like seeing all these eyeballs came out, right, on my first one, because I did it often. But I also did it to like, it was a Band-Aid. It kept me good for like 30 days and I had to go back, right? The most was 30 days, if that. But your come down was horrible. You're sick. You don't feel good. So I would do it. And the first time I seen like all these eyeballs and it was scary. And I'm in my own home. And I was like, okay, don't think that it's evil. It's almost like I'm having this self-talk, obviously, and to convince myself like it's not bad. And I would journal. I would go through the hallucination and start writing everything, what I would see. And I would be like, okay, these are my messages and this is how I have to apply it in my walk. Yeah.
Wow.
So I lived an exhausting life.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's fun.
It's very exhausting because you're trying to keep up. And I don't mean keep up with the Jones. I mean keep up with like trying to heal yourself.
Yeah, you feel good for a moment, then you're sick. And how long's your period of sickness? Is it a day, 2
Yeah,
week?
it was like a day. Like you have this horrible like stomach feeling and then they say like, oh, once you go to the bathroom, number 2, it's out of your system, right? But it would just be this bad pain in the belly. And then you have to release or whatever. But again, you find yourself going back and doing it again.
So, did you ever do it on your children or your husband?
Yes. Yeah. My husband would be like, I felt this, but I just feel like if anything, I fell asleep. I feel more relaxed. It didn't allow me to be in my head. And I'm like, oh, it's working, And my son, my youngest,
What's his name?
Jariah.
Jariah. Okay.
And he would say, Mom, I want Reiki. He asked me on his 10th birthday. And I said, yes, I will do it, and after I did it, I posted him and I started getting children. So then I did it and he was like, but come to think of it too, he always struggled with like bad dreams. My son, our youngest too, is also gifted. I believe he has the prophetic in him too through visions and dreams. And
so he was drawn to it because that's his nature.
He even had little crystals, his own little crystals.
That you gave him?
That I gave him. Yeah. And I was like, put this under your pillow and do this.
So where is he now?
Now he's like, no. Now
Good to know.
He threw all the crystals away. He's like, do you want these? I'm like, no, I serve Jesus. Why would I want those? Throw them away. But my whole entire house was filled with crystals. I had crystals everywhere.
Most people don't know that when you buy crystals, they have meanings according to colors, size,
properties.
Mm-hmm. And so as a new age person, you had to learn all these properties.
Yep.
So you could tell someone, well, this crystal will do specifically this thing.
Yeah. It'll help you with anxiety, insomnia, relationship, love, stress, worry, depression, suicide.
So as you're doing all these crystals and you're doing it all in your house, did you ever have, a subject, a person that came to be read or to come and experience hopefully what they were looking for? Did it ever go bad? Like, did they ever have an encounter maybe that was...
You know what? There was one time it never went bad. And I'm sure people talked, right? Like sometimes I would hear back like, oh, she's not correct. Or she didn't say this on this. Or she didn't really pinpoint.
And it can't.
Correct.
It's different than the prophetic.
Right. And what tripped me out, though, was I would get names. But I think it's because that's when I went heavily more into it as almost like sacrificing myself, and having altars in my room.
Okay. Let's talk about this. Because most people, they set up altars, but they don't even know they're altars.
Yeah.
They set these things up. And they think it's good, not knowing it's a place of sacrifice. Right. Tell me about your altars. Describe one.
So I had 2, because I'm like doing the most all the time, right? I had 2. One was I had pictures of every single dead person or funeral that I went to. I know.
What? Where's that? What?
So like family members, friends.
Oh my gosh.
I pasted them there. And I put a candle. I had sage on one shelf, Palo Santo, incense. One shelf was like dedicated to my grandma, my grandpa. And then the other shelf was like money, to attract money and you put certain crystals for this money, and you put dollar bills and certain things, and you put them in a box, or some people put them on a dish or whatever. And I would put on the other shelf with all the people. It was, like I said, people at funerals I went to, friends, loved ones. Those little cards, you get from their funerals are their viewings.
And so they'll have a picture and then a scripture.
Yeah.
And so in your mind, you're validating it. Well, it has the scripture, but how did you worship at that altar? What'd you do?
I sat there in front of it, and I would do breathing, breath work, and I would meditate, and I would pray. I was praying. Obviously, it wasn't to God. I thought it was to God, but I look back and it's like, that was not to God. And then there was another one. That was one altar. Okay. And then it was
the altar of the dead.
That part.
The passed on. So that's what probably empowered you to see on the other side.
Right.
Hear someone's name of who's passed away.
Right. And then I had another altar, and it had a mirror. And I sat in front of it. And this one had like candles, crystals. There's these little things in New Age, and they're called grids. And so if you put crystals the correct way on these grids, you manifest certain things into your life, right? And so that was on that altar. And so I would put certain crystals to manifest wealth, love, health, all these things. And this is when I would meditate in front of that one, I one time seen my face different. And I've never spoke on this, but I journaled it. I journal a lot still till this day. I journal, and my face was like old and like sunk in, and it scared me. And
yeah, and you're not young and vibrant.
No. Oh, cute like this.
And now you're like, that can't be me. She's ugly.
Yeah, I was like, oh, shoot. Like, we're not doing that no more. So I never meditated again in front of that one. But I did in front of the other one all the time because I felt grounding.
So we understand, scripturally speaking, the mirror. You look in the mirror. What that is talking about, the mirror is God's word. And so when you're looking in the mirror, you're seeing your true self, old and dead.
Yes.
Dying.
And see, in New Age, the mirror is a portal to a different realm. Evil comes out of it. So it's interesting because, like, coming into being a student in your, in your school, SOAR, learning the difference. There's such a, literally like a piece of thread, like we sew our clothes, right? A thread. It's so thin that it's manipulated that quickly, or like that. It's crazy because now I could see through like your teachings and what I came out of. And I thank God, like, he allowed me to practice that for 7 years. At first I was like, why'd you let me do this for so long? But I'm not switching over. I have no desire. Some people are like, oh, you could go back, or you may pick up a crystal. No.
No desire, no life in it.
No.
You found life.
Yeah. I'm all for Jesus, and I'm not going back. Like, there's no turning back. I'm disgusted with that world.
So here you have these altars. Were they out in the open, or do you have them hidden?
No, they're out in the open in my bedroom. In my bedroom.
How did your husband feel coming in and seeing all these dead people?
He didn't care. He's Joe that goes with the flow. He did not care. He would, though, he had a lot of bad dreams, and he was being attacked. Like, he would he would feel stuff at night, or so if anything. And I'm like, oh, it's because you're not right, and this and that, and you're doing this. Yeah.
Pulling out your sage, and you're probably, let me clear your chakras.
I was.
And he's
like, this, wear this bracelet, do this.
And he just goes with the flow.
Goes with the flow.
And he don't even realize it's tormenting him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it's
poor guy.
I know. And he, at that time when I had that stuff, I think back, he was the one who went through a lot, like at night. He would see stuff.
Demonic spirits.
Yep.
Creatures.
Yep. He would see stuff. He would feel it. It would happen like on the bed. I'm like, you're sleeping with the enemy. But yeah. Yeah. I slept like a baby.
Yeah, those were your moment of rest while he was tormented.
Right.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's the exchange.
My poor husband. Yeah.
The exchange.
I didn't realize.
So if you had peace, the one you loved didn't. And if he had peace, you were sick.
Right. And then there was times where he's like, I can't freaking call the hospital. He didn't want to call my mom and dad.
He didn't know what to do.
No.
Hands were tied.
Yeah, and I'm like, Joe, pray for me. Pray for me.
He's like, pray to who?
Yeah.
Right? He don't know where to pray.
Exactly.
Do I pray to your crystal?
Yeah.
Do I pray on your altar?
You know what, Rob? He would say that. He was like, what do you need? Do you need what crystal? Tell me what crystal you need. What do you want me to sage you? Immediately he would break out the sage. Come to find out, sage opens portals. It attracts more of that into your home or even within self. Because what I dealt with at the end, it got really bad. So I got these lips popping.
I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to imagine when your family, when your friends came into your house and they saw your altars.
Well, those were in my bedroom.
Okay. So they weren't in open.
No.
Okay. So they were just in your house, but they were hidden in your room.
Yeah.
My God, I would not want to sleep.
Yeah. But crazy thing too is I started bringing all these Buddhas and statues.
Girl.
into my home. And I had crystals, which I created my whole household to be a grid. So I practice feng shui.
You opened up a whole portal house.
Portal.
So when people came in, they were having experiences.
Correct. Yep. I opened a whole portal.
Girl, you dark.
Not no more.
You were. That moment in your life. But it all stems out of maybe that feeling of rejection.
Yeah.
That feeling.
Because you're seeking for
acceptance,
and identity.
So you must have felt really accepted in your...
I did, because people, and I don't blame the people, because now I understand and I know, but people put me on a pedestal, like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I'd be like, it's not me, it's God, but it wasn't God. It was gods. It was goddess. It was angels. It was all these other
entities. So it was demonic principalities that you categorized as gods to make it legit in your mind.
Yeah.
Because if you would have sat back and ever really thought, I'm opening the door to the devil in the lives of all these people, you probably would have said, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But because it was the form of an angel, it was a form of
deception.
A god or a goddess.
Yeah. It was disguised as like something obviously flashy, beautiful, crystal, right? Like, then you're like, oh my God, it's so pretty. And then what are the properties? Takes you down that rabbit hole. And some people would always come back and be like, I can't shake this off. I can't do this. Now, here's the thing in New Age. They say you have to go through your trauma. You have, when you do, and you feel like it keeps coming up, deal with it. You're healing your inner child. So you're thinking you have to go through this torturing part of your life to heal yourself. And that's the thing, is when you're in that world, it's all about you trying to heal yourself. When you're in Jesus, Jesus does the healing.
100%.
Yeah.
But here we are in the midst of it. But there's no peace. There's no joy.
No.
There's probably a little gratification because you're helping others.
For sure.
But for self,
Yeah.
Your husband is being tormented.
Yeah.
Your son's having bad dreams.
Yep.
You yourself are fighting sickness. And then your oldest, he's just stayed away from it all.
Just like, no, Mom, I love you and support you, but the moon can't tell me how I'm acting. My astrology sign, can't tell me that I'm this and that. I think girls are dumb who think of worship astrology. Like he was very vocal. He's like his mother.
Yeah, he's fighting you.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the name of what he was first trained in and what he believed.
And his name's Cross.
He's a good young man. I love Cross. He's so well spirited. He's so well liked, likable.
He is.
And
thank you.
He's probably the countermeasure that God was using to fight you, to speak the little truth that you needed.
Yeah. And I always dismissed it. And when I did the mushrooms, things started unraveling even more. And then I was doing my own ceremonies, the sound baths. I even went, I got a gong. So it's one of those big ones. Yeah.
Gong.
Yeah.
Creates these sound waves.
Correct. And I started just tuning forks. Tuning forks are basically, you use those in a Reiki session and they align your chakras, but they bring balance into your chakras. The
7 points.
Yeah. And what else? I started doing the cards. I started laying out cards and doing card readings on myself. Then anyone who'd basically ask, any opportunity I got, I took it. I would do card readings on people.
Did you do mass parties where people would gather 5, 10 of their friends?
Yes, I did. I actually started doing group readings. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the next level. I was traveling. And I would sit with 20 people in a group.
How'd they find you?
Word of mouth.
Sheesh.
I was out there. I was like I said, I'm a go-getter. So I put myself out on social media. And
so how did you end up at the shop across the street?
So she said she had a dream of me. And it's so funny. She said she had a dream of me. I think that she had the dream and heard of me. And she contacted me. And I was like, oh my God, here's another sign. I've been wanting a shop, but I heard Spirit say, you'll only be there for a year. And sure enough, there was things like Ouija boards. Me and her kind of got into a confrontation first.
Devil fighting devil?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Because it's probably her in the hierarchy. This is my shop.
Right.
And I can see you going, well, I'm here and we're working together and there's a little fighter in you.
Right.
And you're not going to tolerate it.
Yeah, for sure.
I belong in the window because I'm shiny. Don't hide me in the back.
Yeah. And
I can see that in you.
And I was in the back. I was the first door. You walk in and I was the first door to the right. But yeah, I went all out. My husband's like, he told me, I don't think it's a good idea. You got to think about this. Nope, it's a sign. She had a dream of me. Took the risk. So I went off and I did it. And I'm grateful that I did because it showed me a lot too. It's funny because after that shop is when the business started declining. It just started going down. And then that's when things started happening internally with me, really bad, couldn't shake depression. I would always try to have to uplift my spirit. Me. Right?
So you became heavy to yourself.
Correct.
So here you are, this guru.
Yeah.
But yet the guru can't even heal herself.
Right. I got into Buddhism. I got into combo.
I don't know what combo is.
It's Kambo. Kambo is serum from a frog.
Girl.
So when the frog sweats, when it's scared,
it secretes.
It sweats. So that gets put on me or on
So
you.
where did you go and get frog serum?
I went to another medicine lady in Gilroy, and I did those monthly. So trip out, I would go monthly and do these sessions. And I had to burn my body. So I have scars on my back, which are like the size of a incense. So you burn your body. There was different points. So I did them like on my ears, from my neck down to the top of like my butt. So you would burn them. You get them anywhere on the body.
So that's to find healing for you.
Correct. So then I go and do this.
So not only are you being burned, you're also ingesting by touch, putting it probably in certain places, this frog serum,
Right.
which is another hallucinogenic
No, this
or
one,
toxin.
toxin, only makes you purge. And supposedly, and I'm going to tell you this in a minute, supposedly heals your internal organs, blood, all this stuff. Okay?
Yeah, what's called the blood of Jesus, it does that.
I know. So I go and do these.
So here, let me just help somebody because this is a deception mask and you can't even see in front of you. Everything is now truth.
Right.
Holy. Go ahead.
Okay, so I go and I do these ceremonies. I start getting burned, and she's like, oh, the more you do it, the more cleared out you'll be, and you'll only have to come like yearly. So I'm like, okay, fine with me.
Burn the heck out of me.
Sign me up. Yeah. Burn my body. So here I am, and you come home same day. So I would go and I did these ceremonies, and it was just me and her. You can have people with you, but I never liked people with me. I would do things privately. And except for like the ayahuascas, you had to, it was
in a group.
Correct. So then I went and I would do it, and there was things like I would purge, and then again, I would feel fine for 30 days.
Maximum.
Sometimes maybe 2 months, right? Maybe 2 months max, if that. And so I would go back, do it again, and I would feel great, energized. You're ready to rock. You're like, yep, I could take on all these readings and help all these people. And, you think your creative juices are flowing too, right? And so then there was one time where I went, so this medicine, you get burned, and it's like the size of an incense. Incense, that's what it's called, right? Incense, and they put the medicine on you. It comes from Peru. It gets put on you, and then you start to purge, and you have to drink, before that medicine gets on you, you have to drink like half a gallon of water. So you're throwing up all this water you just drank, right? But your face, like my face would get swollen like a frog. Like my lips were huge. My ears were huge. Your heart starts to pound, like you're going to die. And all of a sudden, after you're done purging, you just want to sleep. So you sleep there at her house for an hour. She feeds you like vegan food. And then you wake up and you're like, yeah, I feel great. You're all like, big old face, frog, swollen, And so, again, you'd be fine for like 2.5 months max, and then I would go back. So after I would do these, there was one I did, and she kept always trying to get me to do ayahuasca. And I swore, like on life, I would not do ayahuasca again. But because of the place I was in September, I was reaching and grasping for anything. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it because maybe that's going to help me. And I know what I experienced the first time. Here I am again. I'm going to do it. So
this will be your third ceremony?
Second.
Okay, your second one.
Second ceremony of doing ayahuasca. And so I do Cambo September, I was suicidal, depressed.
So the Cambo is where they're burning you then.
Correct. Frog serum.
So just a little here. I remember ministering at the Colorado State Penitentiary. I'm ministering at their camp. And I remember calling out a guy saying, there's somebody here who has a frog as a pet. And you need to let it go because you're addicted to your frog. And I had this vision of somebody squeezing it and taking the sweat or the secretion. And what he was doing is he would lick it and sell licks. And it would bring them into a hallucinogenic. It was a drug. It was a toxin that acted like a mushroom. So you're doing it, but this thing is actually poisonous and it's causing you to purge.
Right.
And so people, when they're bound, think about it. Would you lick a frog for a high? Today.
No. Today, no.
But
Back then, yeah.
and that's the deception.
Exactly.
I'll do anything.
Yeah. To
Holy.
get healing, to feel healed, to feel peace, to feel peace. And so then September I was that way. And then I think September I did Cambo. October, ayahuasca, second one now. Okay, so this ceremony, this is where it really changed. It was leading up to the accident. And so that ceremony, I go in, and it's a few people. It's a couple people this time. And my trip, that one, I had an encounter with God. He came to me and told me, spit out the medicine. And I was like, no, because if I spit it out, the guy just said, the medicine's not going to work. It's not going to do its thing. And he told me, I am the medicine. Spit it out.
So you are at an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yep.
You drink it.
Yep.
And immediately God's intervening.
Well, I go through these visions,
Okay.
right? And then
So don't skip that.
Okay, so I go through these visions. One was like of a friend, and then another one, somebody's mom had came to me in that ceremony, and she had just passed away. So a friend's mom came to me, and I was like, okay. Then I got a word for the girl laying next to me, and I was like, okay. Then I seen myself as a little girl, and I'm twirling in a dress, and I want to say that this was God. That's when God intervened, because he said, I have put multiple gifts inside you and you have not been using them. And
Here you are in your mind, like, I'm using all kinds of gifts.
yeah, like I am. You just haven't been giving me appointments. You know, you're not showing up. Like, you got to do your part.
Oh,
you know?
my.
And so then I'm twirling and I'm a little girl. And in my head, I'm thinking too, I'm healing my inner child. There is so much deception in that world and so much that comes with it, manipulation. And so I'm thinking I'm healing my inner child. And the song, You Are My Sunshine, comes on. And I'm twirling and I hear that song. And I was like, okay. I said, okay, Lord. If so, then show me how to use my gifts. So I said that. And then it showed me on a slate of cement. And I was completely naked, but I didn't see like my body parts like you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, you're just bare. But I could see myself and I'm holding on and I hear let go. And I was like, no, I can't let go. So I let go. I wake up. I go take second dose.
He said spit it out. Did you spit it out?
Not yet. Not yet. So then I go take second dose. And the guy says, make sure.
But you only are supposed to take a second dose if you didn't have an experience. You're obviously having an experience, but you're like, well,
I want more.
goodness.
Yeah. So then I go take second dose, and then that's when God said, I seen this huge light. And I immediately broke. I could feel myself crying. I can feel a battle, like physically, spiritually. I've never felt that. Like there was some kind of like coherence, but there wasn't. Like that's why I say there was a battle and there's this huge light. And I said, I surrender. I surrender. So when that happened, he said, spit up the medicine. And then I was like, no, no, no. If I spit it up, then he said, the medicine man said, I'm not going to feel full effect of the ceremony. And that's when God told me, I am the medicine. I spit it up. I throw up immediately. I already had a bucket in my hand. It was weird. And I threw up. I laid down and I seen this little plant. Just like this, just barely peek. That was it, right? I was on my cycle in this ceremony. So I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom. I don't know if I'm bleeding on myself or what, but I need to go, right? So I get up and he's like, are you good to go? And Rob, you're like a newborn baby. Like your legs are like super wobbly. I was like, my neck was like, so you're just a newborn child. So I was like, I'll be fine. I got up out of that tent and I was like, God, help me. I was stood at that door, the tent of the door, and I seen the porter potty. And I said, help me. And he said, walk. Now I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this ever again. I'm already like kind of switching over.
Conversion is taking place in the midst of taking hallucinogenic stuff.
Right.
Clarity's coming. God's like, yeah, she's going to kill herself in this if I don't save her.
Right. So I go, and then I'm standing now at the porter potty, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to walk back? And he said, you're going to walk like Moses. I was like, what? And I could see palm trees, and the stars were so clear. And he said, you're going to walk like Moses. I don't know what that means.
So pause right there. Stars are so clear. Is it night at this ceremony? So you're doing this at night.
Yep.
Not in the broad daylight. It's completely dark. And now you shouldn't be able to see palm trees if it's dark, but in your spirit, in your mind, I guess, you're seeing them.
Yeah, I could see palm trees and the stars. I looked up and that's when I heard.
Palm trees are symbolic of victory. In scripture. They took the palm trees and they laid them down as Jesus was coming. Deborah sat under the palm tree. The palm tree was always a symbolism of the victory. So you're seeing palm trees. So he's saying spiritually, victory's coming.
Yep. So then he said, get your stuff and go back to your tent. I heard it clear, right?
Stars. You know what's so amazing about stars? Stars shine the brightest when it's the darkest. And you can see the vibrancy of these stars. You're in the darkest time of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's starting to become the light in the sky.
Right.
He's the light in your mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Be like Moses.
Walk like Moses. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And so then I get my blankets and I walk back to my tent. Then he tells me, take all your clothes off, change your outfit and put it at your feet. So I did that. Took all my clothes off that I did ceremony in, took all my clothes off, put it at my feet.
Dismantling you.
And I changed and I prayed. That night I prayed and I was like, God, please get me home. I just want to go home now. I won't ever do this again. I'm over here like repenting my life now, right? Never had that happen before, by the way, in any type of ceremony that I've had. So then that happens in October. And then November was the accident. So fast forward, I go through the accident. I'm upset with God. And all my family came to visit. Like, you went, people come, my parents, my family. By now, everyone has to go back to work and school. And I'm laid up on the couch. And I'm like, man, you're helpless. You can't move. I had a concussion. I couldn't even keep my eyes open, the light, just everything. I've never felt so empty. And so then I'm laying there and I hear God. That same voice that was in the ayahuasca happens on my couch. And he tells me, I need you to give me your job. I said, say what? You want me to do what? Because this is how I'm providing for my family. I said that, and again, I want you to give me your job. And that moment, I was like, I'll give it to you. No hesitation. I did say, like, you said, what? You know, like, you want me to do what? Do you not know I provide this way? And when I did, he said, you've given me something to work with. And I cried. And he's like, read your Bible. I don't even have a Bible. You want me to read a Bible? And I can't even comprehend right now. So I'm having these deep conversations with God. And I'm in this place of uncontrollably crying now. Like, just so much love that I've been seeking this entire
Acceptance.
time. Yeah. With no judgment.
And now all the self-work, trying to fix yourself, heal yourself, what's happening?
All the self-work and all, it was gone. I didn't need to do that. I didn't have to worry about how to heal myself.
He said, I am your medicine.
Yeah. And he truly was in that moment. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll give up the readings. I'll give up my job. I went on live and I was so afraid. And I started to announce I got into the accident and I'm not going to do readings anymore. And that I'm going to serve Jesus. And those two girls that I gave eucalyptus for, I went to take eucalyptus. That was like my peace offering. See ya. Because they cut me off real quick. And we were calling each other sisters. You know, we were really hanging out. We were really close. I was so hurt. And God told me, they judged me, Jesus. He got crucified. It was almost like he was showing me things of how Jesus was ridiculed and judged. And what more are you?
Yeah.
What, you think you weren't going to get judged?
They persecuted me. They'll persecute you also.
Yes. And so I was like, okay. And then a couple of days after that, everything was like a healing time right in this moment. And 3 months, it was 3 months for me. So the first month was just crying. And I'm like, okay, Lord, then provide. You want my job, then provide. And that was something that I was doing. I was talking to him that way. And then he said, give me your cards. Because I was still putting out stuff on social media just to like keep the people, trying to still keep that platform. I was doing the card readings and he was like, give me your cards too. And I practically had altar call in my room. Gave him the cards. And he was like, okay. So then the third month, I got rid of all the sound bowls. I got rid of the gong. I got rid of all the crystals. I got rid of all the statues. I burned the cards. Actually, I put them in the closet, but I burned them a year later. They stood in the closet, but I was adamant because he told me, burn them. You're not going to go give them away. You're going to burn them. So I was like, okay. But you get busy, you put them somewhere and then you're like, oh.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. So I made sure to do what he said. And by the third month, I got a job.
Wow.
I work 8 to 5, weekends off. I get paid good. I'm still helping people. I work with mental behavioral, BHRS, under the probation with a company. So, and nobody knows. I never went out and announced like I got an 8 to 5 job. Nobody knows. But ever since then, that accident truly changed my life from New Age to Jesus.
So let's bring it to a conclusion. I remember you saying that, you hit your head, you had a concussion, but ever since that day, you told me that you could no longer remember the principles. No. You could no longer remember the meanings of the crystals, yep. That you lost your memory of only this demonic stuff.
Yeah.
You spent 7 years investing into all of this new age, from Buddhism to combo to ayahuasca to astrology, mushrooms, your all of these chakras and Reiki, and your family's been on this whole journey with you, and now it's all coming to the place where I can't remember a thing.
Yeah.
So would you say that in your accident, God said, I'm taking this mind and I'm going to put a new mind in her?
Yeah.
Because he loves you so much?
Yeah. That's exactly what he did. It makes me emotional because I feel like, who am I? But then in him, I am somebody. I was and I am worthy. And I don't have to search for that anymore because I'm accepted.
You're loved.
I'm loved. And in all that world, you do these affirmations, but it's I. And with him, he's the one that's doing it. He's the one giving the healing. It's so effortless when you serve Jesus, but we complicate it as humans.
And so now, if you could just take a moment and share your gratitude.
Oh man, you really want to make me cry and mess up my makeup, huh?
Tears are beautiful.
I know, and that's another thing. Coming into Jesus, I'm a freaking hot mess now all the time. I cry about everything. I'm like, I don't know if this is like the part of getting older and my mother, but we were just talking about that yesterday. But words cannot express my gratitude towards God. I'm in so much love with him. I've never been so in love with anything. Back then, you think you're in love with like yourself or your husband, your kids. I've never felt this love. I've never felt it towards my kids. I've never felt this towards my husband. And I feel that it's all Jesus, that is inside me. I always tell my husband, like, Jesus is my Sancho. Like, he's my Sancho right now because, I'm hungry for him. And all of those things that I did, I search now for him, and I want more of him, and any little thing that I can grasp to, like preachings and teachings, and and even back then, they talk about having boundaries and all this stuff. We could get into it, but with Jesus, he loves relationship. He mended a lot of my relationships. I didn't have a relationship with my family, my parents.
Because of this journey, it takes you away and it isolates.
Right. Exactly. And that's exactly how I lived my life, for 7 years. And that's what it led up to, was into isolation. And so I am beyond grateful for him saving me. He's definitely doing something in my household because, we're declaring and decreeing in the church right now. For me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And I've been saying it, in my own house. And slowly my husband's coming. My son is already there, Cross. Jariah, same thing. He's like his father. He don't know, but he does pray. And I've been teaching him, so things are happening for their good.
You have to invite Jariah to sit in one of our SOAR classes with you. No, really, because to capture his curiosity for the prophetic call on his life, because I think the prophetic call is something that's not only on your life and evident, it's in your family. And I think you're picking it up now for your family.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's definitely a gifted child. And I'm very open to with him now that I know I'm teaching him the right way. And that's what I thank God. Like, thank you for bringing me out of all of that. Because now I can teach him the right way, and my grandchildren when that happens. And I'm very grateful for him saving me. and taking me out of all that darkness. And, sometimes in the beginning, I used to think too,
Take your moment. It's healing for you, but it's going to be healing for so many others.
I misled a lot of people. I had good intentions. But I feel like I was so deep into deception. How could I lead anybody? And I led them to what I knew at that time. So I know with God, with Jesus, He's gonna use me and my story to lead multitudes to Him.
100%. Out of the darkest of nights, out of the darkest of genealogies, out of the darkest of places, a Savior was born. Jesus comes out of a dark genealogy. Most people don't know it. If you study the women in his genealogy, you will begin to realize these were what the world today would call unsavory. You think of Tamar, who slept with her father-in-law.
Right, yeah.
You think of Rahab, who was the prostitute. You think of Ruth, who is the Moabitess, who was birthed out of incest. Then you take Bathsheba, who was, the one who laid with King David when she was married to Uriah the Hittite. But out of all that darkness comes a Savior, a bright light. Out of all the witchcraft, all the New Age, all the combo and Reiki and all this stuff, all these services and self-helps and cards, God took it all away, wrapped you up in Him, and now He says, you're going to be a healer by speaking my word in truth and in love and deliver and set the masses, the multitudes free. Wow. What a journey.
Yeah. And to think I've just begun.
A year later, serving the King of Kings.
Yeah.
Tell me now, how is life different?
Oh, man. It's peaceful. I have an unexplainable peace that...
How about sickness?
Funny you say that. I went through all these ceremonies. Supposedly I was getting healed. I come into Jesus and I have all these health problems because I suppressed them while doing all these ceremonies. Now I'm just asking for good health. And I'm on actually a health journey right now. And he's like, you want good health. So I need you to listen and be obedient in this, because all of that I practiced, they said nothing was wrong with me. I come into Jesus, all that bondage, the bandages come off, and it's like, no, this has been wrong with you. And it was suppressed. So my health is, but I also believe, because I've always been like really intrigued with the mind, the body, that this is where I'm trusting. I stay in submission. I'm obedient. And this is where He has me. And, even though I feel a lot of discomfort and pain, He is my comfort.
There you go. So, healing is coming and it's manifesting.
Yes.
So the
True
sickness,
healing.
Yeah. So the troubles and the pains you had, they're not the same.
Definitely not the same. For sure.
And your family, they're all what? They're all on a new journey too.
We're all on a new journey. Yep.
Well, praise the Lord for that.
I know. Amen.
Is there anything else you would like to say? Maybe just if you take a moment, think about how can you help someone?
If anything, today in society, we all search for some type of love, healing, identity, or just to feel good. But I truly believe what I know now is seek out the kingdom. Somebody who is Christ-like, somebody who will genuinely pray for you and not manipulate, because and if it has to do with anything like crystals, Reiki readings, self-healing, any sort of type, tarot, any of that, Wicca,
Yeah.
and hold these or take these herbs. No, like really, God will lead you, or God will show you if you ask him. But we have to be obedient, even if it's not what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Because it could really mislead you. And that's what happened to me. It misled me for 7 years, and I'm very grateful. So I encourage people, like through my story, that they don't go down that rabbit hole, or they don't have to, it take that long for them to find Jesus or that true healing, because it truly is there. We just have to be alert, have discernment, or get around somebody, who is Christ-like.
Well, I want to say thank you for taking this time to tell me your story. I believe out of darkness comes a great light. Now that his light is shining by you and through you, you're going to see the lives of many change and transform. Thank you for saying yes to becoming not just yes to God and to the Lord, but saying, yes, I want to embrace my call on the other side. And I just want you to know that I enjoy having you in our source school of prophecy, because I know that by the time you finish this course, you're going to have a word in your mouth and it's going to be good. And you're already doing it. I mean, you've already opened your mouth and prophesied, and you're using now your gifting on the other side for what is right, to offer encouragement and hope through scripture and through God's word.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you too, because, you being obedient to the call as well, and, having your gift and teaching us the right way. I don't know anyone else out there besides you teaching us the truth, the way, the right way. There's so many counterfeits. There's so many out there. And I was one of them, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because I know who I serve now. So I thank you so much for teaching me the right way.
Well, it's an honor. I'm glad to literally say the shop across the street, it's going to close down.
Agree.
I'm glad your name is wiped off. It's no longer there.
Me too.
And you've crossed over, and you're on the side where the word of the Lord is going to come forth and change lives and offer hope to God's people and really deliver them who are discouraged.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Rob.
For sharing your story. You really blessed me. Thank you.
Thank you.